Hi and welcome to Tash Talks. For over 20 years, Millie Kendall OBE has been one of the most influential women in the British beauty industry and is now the CEO of the British Beauty Council, supporting hundreds of thousands of female entrepreneurs across the UK. She's joining me today. Who is Millie Kendall OBE?
Oh goodness, that's a really difficult question. Should I tell you my age?
Go on.
I'm 56. I have born in London, but I grew up in LA for a short time. So I think I'm quite multinational. I am the CEO of the British Beauty Council. I also own a media agency, and I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. I've done so many jobs in beauty. I feel like I'm a little bit renegade. I'm a little bit like left field. I'm probably not very mainstream.
I mean, from my point of view, as an
I think
outsider,
that's right, yeah.
as an outsider looking in, I think everyone of a certain age knows the brand you created, Ruby and Millie, which really was, at a certain time, a standout brand. Can you tell us about that? Because I just remember coveting various things from Ruby and Millie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Renegade in that we had a huge investment from a retailer of £7 million, which is quite a lot of money back then, to develop a range that would go into hundreds of stores. And now that model's not so unusual, that there's large investment into cosmetic brands, but back then it was the first of its kind. And it was, we basically had a blank slate, so we got to create whatever we wanted. And the idea was to create a sort of really premium looking and feeling brand, so great formulations, great packaging, but sell to the general public masses, to the masses, and not be exclusive. The idea was to be very inclusive. Ruby's was born in Africa, I was born in London. She's black, I'm white, she's Muslim, I'm Jewish. It was actually the inclusivity of the brand was quite Renegade at the time. And we launched it in Harvey Nichols, Selfridges, and then Boots.
And it took off, didn't it?
Oh, it was incredible, yeah, it was an incredible
When
journey.
you think back to that period, what do you remember? Like, what was it like?
Well, it feels like somebody else's life. That's the weird thing. It does feel like somebody else's life. I mean, it was so fast and furious, and we traveled extensively, and it was sold in Japan and Taiwan, and it was amazing. I mean, I think that now anybody over the age of 35, maybe over the age of 40 will remember it.
Yeah.
Because some people, it was the first product that they ever bought.
Yeah.
In fact, I get that comment a lot. It was the first product I ever bought. I was 16. I used my own money and I went into Boots.
Yeah.
And that was sort of, and when you think about that was the purpose of the brand, to be a reasonably priced, peer-to-peer, girl-to-girl purchase. It's quite amazing. I forget how amazing it was, actually. It was really, yeah.
And you really drove it through mainstream PR, didn't you? I mean, and you've been in PR in one form or another, and you still are, which we'll come on to now, throughout your career. How have you seen the role of PR and mainstream press change for brands and even for anybody wishing to sort of create a profile or presence?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was, it's so difficult because now there's so many different types of media, and there's so many different ways of driving business with sort of content creators, digital media, and mainstream media. I mean, I think it was a lot easier back then. I still have boxes and boxes and boxes of tear sheets with our products on it, and you could see the impact because it was quite linear, whereas now you're never really sure where that impact is coming from. Or you can kind of, obviously with the digital media, you can kind of see the numbers, but it's very difficult to evaluate mainstream media influence. It's challenging.
And if you were launching that brand again now, what route to market would you take? I mean, I agree, it was, I think for you...
That's really difficult. I don't think I'd ever launch anything again. I really don't. I think that now, I don't know how people do it. I don't know how they do it. Because you would have to be a person of influence. You would have to be on digital media 24/7. I just don't have the energy for it.
So you see that the digital media has overtaken, in some sense, some of the power of the mainstream media?
I think the power of the mainstream media is very much an opinion forming. It's that solid rock. It's the foundation. Even today, the most influential people who have incredibly successful brands, if they get a piece in an influential newspaper or magazine that features their product, that has an amazing amount of long-term sort of resonating value. But I think that and digital media obviously can drive the traffic to where you need it to be. I think a lot of those brand founders now, it's their personal influence selling the product. So you've got the sort of bedrock of mainstream media, you've got the sort of flurry of of the digital media, but they are selling the product themselves.
Yeah, power of personal brand.
Power of the personal brand, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so after Ruby and Millie, because it did end, didn't it, for you guys? What happened?
So Ruby and I had always agreed that if one of us didn't want to do the brand anymore, we would both quit.
Yeah.
And actually we both kind of came to the realization at the same time. So I think for different reasons really, but I wasn't particularly satisfied creatively, and I think I was quite frustrated. When you have a brand for that long and it's owned by somebody else, there are oftentimes things that launched with your name on it that you're not particularly happy with. But we'd always said we wouldn't just shut up and take it. We would leave. So we did. We resigned in I think 2010, and then we had a non-compete for a while. And then I had this bright idea. I bumped into a friend of mine who worked at Vogue, and we had this bright idea to open a shop that sold sort of multitude of like different products, but it wouldn't be brand dominated. It would be really about the product itself. And so we launched a company called Mart. We launched it in Harvey Nichols. We'd had lunch with Mary Portas, and she had talked about the pop-up model. So we sort of popped up in Harvey Nicks, we popped up in Shoreditch, we popped up in Topshop in Oxford Circus, and we brought in lots of sort of, I think quite renegade products. So Japanese products, American products, French pharmacy products, Korean products. You know, again, really renegade, possibly a little ahead of its time. And obviously I had worked in stores before the internet.
Yeah.
So I had not banked on the stress of having a website. An
For
e-commerce
Beauty Mart.
Yeah. Because even with Ruby and Millie, I didn't manage that. When e-commerce launched, Boots managed the sales. I didn't manage that. My goodness, an e-commerce platform is really difficult.
I mean, you know, we do a lot of work with e-commerce brands, and it's incredibly complicated. I feel sorry for them. Their business is built on shifting sands. It's not. It's not a sort of. It's very. It's. You've got to be prepared to keep running the whole time because everything's moving beneath
and you are literally working at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And people are complaining constantly because you're always available.
Yeah.
Like you know, back in the old days, you could close your shop doors. You know, you go buy clothes, slam the doors, put a sign on the window and say, "I'm closed."
Yeah,
that was it. No one could get hold of you. But with e-commerce, it's super difficult. You know, it's really difficult. And sometimes, like there was one time where we had like a glitch on the website, and we double sold everything. In fact, it was Sally Hughes, a journalist, had put something online saying that we were having a sale. And it would start at midnight, I don't know, a few days from when she posted it. And people had been putting products in their basket ready to push checkout at midnight when the sale went live. And our website imploded. And anyone that bought anything bought it 4 times, basically. And so we didn't have the stock. And it was so difficult to match the payment part of the website with the stock part of the website to figure out who'd actually ordered what and how many times they'd ordered it. Oh, it was a 3-day weekend project.
Oh my God, that
sounds
sounds
like
like a nightmare.
days. Yeah, it was a nightmare.
So from Beauty Mart, you've gone on and created, which you're extremely well known for today, the British Beauty Council.
Yeah.
And actually, that has also seen you get your OBE, which we're going to come back to in a minute. But just explain what the British Beauty Council is and the work that you do in it.
So I guess it was a sort of lifelong frustration in really the perception of our industry. It's seen as the fluffy stuff that girls play with. And I felt that, you know, the beauty industry was much more about personal care and hygiene and not always about makeup, even though that's a medium I'm obviously known for. And my dad's a hairdresser, and I grew up with, I think he felt quite a bit of bias towards being a hairdresser. You're a labourer. People assume you're not very clever. So I grew up in an environment that felt very that biased towards people that work in our industry. And Anna and I, when we had Beauty Mart, had been talking about sort of setting up an advocacy group to really sort of try to champion and raise the reputation of the sector. So essentially the British Beauty Council is an advocacy group. We work with government, we raise the reputation of the industry, we work with business leaders, we commission reports into the economic value and the contribution to the nation, essentially, of the industry. So yes, last night I was writing an interview for a newspaper around our contribution to the high street. It's not sort of an accident that hair salons are called salons. Salons are where people meet to talk. It's about community. There's value in that. Beyond the economic value, which we've obviously now proven through the British Beauty Council is enormous, there is also that sort of contribution to people's well-being, community, sense of touch, So it's about sort of looking at all the sort of really positive things that the beauty industry does and really making sure that business leaders and policymakers understand those.
And let's talk about some of the stats, because on this programme we always talk to female entrepreneurs, and obviously the beauty industry is predominantly female. Some of the stats I've seen the British Beauty Council publish are really staggering in terms of this number of women working in the beauty industry, a lot of them as solopreneurs or self-employed, so they are running small businesses. And a huge part of the British economy, and really an economic powerhouse.
Yeah.
What are some of the research shown? So
it's really interesting because we've just redone our report, The Value of Beauty, which is you can download for free because everything we do is open source. In the recent Value of Beauty, 95% of our industry is small, medium enterprises. That's under 9 employees. 70% are under 4 employees. So those are micro businesses.
So these are often women with an assistant or a few women
or freelancers, but they are sort of registered entities. They register with the Office of National Statistics, so they're registered business entities. And 86% of the businesses in our sector are owned by women, and almost 90% of our workforce are women. So it's huge. It's a huge female community. We're
enterprising
women. Really amazing. And it's a flexible working environment. 50% of our workforce work part-time. We bring people into our industry from varying levels of education. We're a beacon for social mobility. So I think for young people, we are really rapidly and avidly promoting careers in our industry at the moment, because I think for young people it's a really great option. There isn't really a ceiling. You can earn a 6-figure salary in our industry, and through sheer hard work and creativity. So I think it's a really upwardly mobile, enterprising sector. And I think the government's really recognised that, which is great
I
news.
think you're really right on the level of social mobility within the beauty industry, because even if we think across some of the friends we have in common, a lot of them started on shop floors. You did. But they're now extremely influential, highly successful women, and they started on the counter at Clarins. And you think, wow, that is an amazing career. They wouldn't have known this was going to happen.
I think quite a lot of us came from that sort of same shop floor.
I think it's true. It's an amazing thing, because you've now got an OBE. Tell us about your shop floor experience.
So I loved working on the shop floor. The thing is, you make an immediate impact on somebody's life by touching their face or putting some makeup on or giving them the right colour lipstick. And I do miss that. I know that at the moment, in my career, we still make impact on people's lives and their livelihoods. But that immediate feeling of changing the way somebody perceives themselves is absolutely phenomenal. I think that's what hairdressers get on a daily basis. It's not just about what they're doing to somebody else. It's the way doing something to somebody else makes you feel. There's a lot of talk about how hairdressers are a very happy career. Hairdressers are generally really happy people because you impact somebody else's life and it really makes a difference to your own.
And they must get that wow moment multiple times a day where they unveil their hair.
It's like amazing.
It's amazing.
Like that TV show in the 90s, Style Challenge, where they would reveal what they look like, or 10 years younger, whatever it was. There is that impact on people's lives, and I love that shop floor experience. I still have friends today that I worked with on the shop floor. We were radical. We were Renegade. It was. We made a lot of money on these concessions that we had in department stores, and we showed up for work on time. We worked really hard, but we didn't work Sundays and we went home at 7. It was really good. But while we were there, we did work really super hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. There are a lot of people that I still am very good friends with that we all worked together on that shop floor.
And that's the social mobility that's prevalent in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, I left school at 15.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to be. My dad was like, oh, you'll be a hairdresser. I was terrible at hairdressing. I couldn't cut hair. I was good at the social side. I loved being in that environment. I loved the freedom and the creativity and the fact that you can kind of really express yourself, and there's no sort of limit to how wild you can be in a hair salon. You can wear what you like, and I've always loved that freedom. But I couldn't cut hair, I simply couldn't do the job. So, you know, who knew where I was going to end up? But working on the shop floor was an alternate place for me. I could do makeup.
Yeah.
I really liked colour, and I really enjoyed that experience. And it led to other things, but it wasn't sort of, didn't wake up one day and go, yeah, I'm going to be the CEO of the British Beauty Council, because my job didn't exist. There was never a fusion between politics and beauty. It didn't exist before.
So tell us about because the British Beauty Council, in quite a short period of time, I mean, 3 years, 4 years?
4.5 years.
4.5 years has resulted in law changes, impact at government level.
Yeah.
Tell us some of the things you're most proud about, because your work then affects
it's so geeky.
Hundreds of thousands of people, doesn't it?
It's really geeky, because it's like the sort of, I mean, I'm a big lover of data, so obviously the value of beauty was really impactful because it allowed a lot of people to have a voice during COVID, because I think that one of the ideas with valuing the industry economically was to give particularly women, our large workforce, you know, full of women, the confidence to be able to go to a bank and say, I'd like a loan, please, because our industry is worth X amount of money. This is what I can actually achieve by opening my own business.
And people didn't have that information.
That information didn't exist. We also, prior to that, we defined the industry, which that had never been done before. So we defined the industry in quite a lot of detail in terms of products and services. So we had two sort of very defined areas of types of businesses. And then, so that was really monumental. And obviously then during COVID, we ended up post-COVID with our own team at government level. There are 4 people now work in a team called the Personal Care Sector Team. You know, big shout out to them because they're brilliant. And, you know, I really...
But this is a government team that's responsible for
our
this
industry.
sector, which wasn't there before. So this is a huge step forward.
Huge,
the industry is acknowledged,
Yeah.
and there's 4 people at government level sort of responsible for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this industry contains,
like
I mean, that's an incredible...
there was nothing like that before.
That's an incredible impact from, you know, from the shop floor as
I
we were
did
talking
ask
about
a lot.
to now.
They did ask a lot. It was a lot of sort of, yeah. So that I think I'm really proud of. The other
And that
thing,
led to your OBE, didn't it?
yeah, I think most of, the British Beauty Council work definitely led to the OBE.
And you'd previously had an MBE.
I did. I got an MBE in 2006 for services to the cosmetics industry.
And what is the impact on a person when they get these types of acknowledgements, an MBE and then an OBE? How do you feel it's helped, changed?
I don't know if it helps or hinders. I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting experience, because the first time was such a shock. I just had my second child, and I thought it was a joke. I didn't think it was serious. So that was really amazing. And obviously the Queen gave it to us, and I went with Ruby Hammer, my business partner at the time, and it was really amazing. And the second time, when I got the letter, I kind of thought, okay, now I know it's not a joke because I've had this before. So it was a slightly different experience. I mean, I think it goes to show that there are possibilities in the industry beyond what people perceive there are. I'm a hairdresser's daughter. I left school at 15. I'm the CEO of the British Beauty Council, and I've got an OBE. You know, it's sort of, it is, anything's possible, really.
And one of the things I love about you, Millie, is your, you know, renegade attitude. And one of the things that women talk about a lot is imposter syndrome. What's your view on that? Because I love your take on imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I deserve a place in the room necessarily, but I do feel like I've worked very hard to be somewhere, and so I'm often surprised by how much the government do listen to me, waffle on. But I don't necessarily have that feeling of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because I think that I've worked really hard in my industry, and I know, the thing is, I know as much as I could possibly know about this industry. And when I go to those meetings, I know more than the person sitting across from me. So in those kind of scenarios where normally you would feel a little bit imposter because you're sitting there with policymakers and they're probably very well educated, went to very good universities, private schools, or whatever, you kind of think, ooh, you know, should I feel like an imposter? And I think they don't know anything about my industry, and I do. I know everything about my industry.
Yeah.
I know how the workforce feel, I know how the products are made, I know how the services come about, and actually they're there to get information from me. And so I weirdly end up feeling quite confident when I'm in that situation. It's a bit role reversal in a way.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And throughout all of this, the whole journey, you've had a really interesting, diverse, what's the word they call those careers, where you've done lots and lots of different things and really stood out. But you've also been a mother.
Yeah.
How's that been?
Well, I seem to have children just as I'm starting a new project. I've always been a single mum, really. So for the most part, I was married for a short period of time. And so, how's it been? I think, do you know what's really interesting? My daughter said to me last night that she's doing sociology A-level. And I said to her something, I said, oh, I'm really tired. She goes, no, Mum, you're a hardworking woman. And she said in sociology yesterday, they were talking about female entrepreneurs and their sort of tenacity. And I thought, oh, thank God she's doing sociology. But I always, you do get that feeling, if there's any imposter syndrome, there's that feeling of I'm not being a good enough parent because I'm at work all the time. Yeah. But actually, my older daughter's now living in Seattle, is working for a large corporation, doing extremely well, works very hard. And I feel like she's a bit of a chip off the old block. She works hard. Yeah. And I'm really proud of that, actually.
That is such a brilliant, because I think lots of mums or working mums or ambitious mums, you do have that thing, I can relate to, the feeling of imposter syndrome, not about work, but about motherhood. Yeah. Actually, it's not really to do with work. It's to do with, oh God, I didn't do enough playing. I never
baked the cakes. I used to go and buy the cakes at the cake sale. But when I ran the class fund for a few years in a row, we made more money than has ever been made in that class fund ever in history. I have attributes, not what a lot of other people have perhaps, but I think you have to be happy with what you've got.
I think you do as well. And I think you do have to focus on your attributes. And I look at things in the same way. It's like, I'm not very good at playing, but I do have other attributes. So hopefully that makes up for the playing, exactly. As I'm sure it does for the cakes, because your daughters must look at you and think, that's incredible. So before we wrap up, we're going to go on a quick trip down memory lane. You've very kindly shared 3 memories with us. So Millie's got 3 photos. This is the first one. I have to say, when I saw this photo, I thought it was some sort of shoot from a magazine or a CD cover.
So it was the first shoot for the launch of Ruby and Millie, and I wanted the pictures. I was quite specific creatively as to what I wanted. So I wanted the pictures to be black and white. Yeah. And which in beauty, no one had ever shot black and white pictures before. They'd always been colour. To show the makeup, obviously. Obviously, I like to do things a little bit different. And I chose a makeup artist to be the photographer, Lisa Butler, and she was incredible, really amazing. She does all the Chanel shows now. Yeah. And it was such good fun. We really enjoyed it. It was really good fun, and we shot quite a lot. I think that might be in a toilet in a pub in Soho.
And what was the reaction to that photo from the industry? Because I agree things weren't shot in black and white in beauty.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the magazines would say, oh no, could you send us a colour picture, please? And I say, sorry, we don't have any. I mean, we didn't have any. So it didn't stop them from actually using the pictures. Right. It was just, there was a template. A glossy magazine would only post glossy coloured pictures, and I was like, I'm sorry, no, I want gritty black and white.
That's that Renegade stuff.
That's who we are.
Right, the next photo you shared is Next Timeways.
So that was when Anna and I had Beauty Mart. So we had this horrendous office in Holloway. It was really funny, in Holloway Road, and it was it was sort of me going back to being a shop girl again after so many years. So it was probably about, say it's 2012, so about 11 years ago. So this was me pretending to be a shop girl in an office, because at that time I thought opening a shop, I can be on the shop floor and I can be a shop girl. But when you have a website, you don't ever leave the office. So I was just I have a trolley in that picture. I had my own shopping trolley.
And the last picture you've shared is a picture that looks like you're somewhere extremely important.
Yes. So after Rishi Sunak opened British Beauty Week, we ended up with quite a good relationship. Well, I had a bit of a relationship with the Johnson team before that anyway. So I'd always worked with them, but we do now a lot of work in Number 10, and sometimes I have to give a speech, which is quite daunting, and I'm not the kind of person that prepares for speeches. So this is me preparing for a speech, which is an anomaly, because normally I do prepare for speeches and then I have the cards in front of me and then I just don't read any of it.
What speech were you giving in this photo?
We were launching a program called the Future Talent Program, which is basically an outreach program to schools. We created these amazing films that are targeted towards 12 to 18-year-olds to show them what a career in the industry really looks like from a sort of science, technology, maths perspective. So sort of STEM, but without the E, because it wasn't really about engineering. This was the first part of it where we invited brands to Number 10 to cultivate interest in the project, and obviously then we launched the project with their help. We worked with some amazing brands, and we launched a series of 4 films that have now been distributed via an organisation called STEM Learning to schools up and down the country.
Wow, that's incredible.
So really impacting kids' lives. So we have a goal of 4,000 kids in the next by the end of next year, and we've reached 2,849.
Wow,
I think.
that is incredible.
So it's really amazing. It's an amazing piece of work, and we send ambassadors out to various different schools to talk about the industry.
Wow, incredible. Well, Millie, thank you so much for coming on,
you.
and what an amazing story, from a shop girl right to the heart of Downing Street.
Still a
but
shop girl,
still
just
a shop
Downing
girl
Street,
at heart.
basically,
Thank you so much, Millie.
Thank
It's
you
been
so
lovely
much.
to have you.
Lovely to be
Thank
here.
you.